All right, President Trump, everyone, just wrapping up a busy day in Israel. Noticeably absent from today's activities, two of President Trump's top advisors, Priebus and Steve Bannon. They're both back in D.C. Their early departure comes amid growing speculation that a major White House shakeup could be on the way. But the White House says the advisors are back in Washington to work on President Trump's pro-growth agenda. They got a budget to take care of, right? Joining me for more analysis, American Majority CEO Ned Ryun and American University Executive in Residence Capri Cafaro. Good to have both you guys here.
Absolutely.
You know, everybody's kind of wondering, why would they leave such an important trip? I'll go to you first on this one, Ned. What do you think this is about? Is it the budget or is it their jobs?
I think it's a mix of both, actually, Trish. I do think, obviously, with the budget and some of the other agenda items, they want to get it back on track. They want to keep pushing hard on that. I have not been shy about how I feel about some of the White House staff, and I have said publicly multiple times I do think that Trump needs to go readjust and restructure his staff. I think he needs a new chief of staff. I think he needs a new White House press secretary. I think he needs to come back from this trip, which I love the fact that he is changing the narrative right now, Trish. Of course, you know how I feel. I think he could be more on the offense on a few other fronts, but he's changing the narrative. But until he comes back and restructures his staff and says, listen, we are going to be more disciplined, starting with myself. We're going to restructure the staff in such a way that we will go on the offense. We will drive the narrative, because here's the deal, Trish. The mainstream media and its allies in the bureaucratic state have declared war on Trump. What he needs to understand is that he cannot go to war and be successful with inferior White House staff. So I do think a shakeup is coming.
So you see Priebus and you see Spicer is potentially out. But, you know, Capri Cafaro, let's not forget, Donald Trump's a very loyal guy, right?
Right, that's right.
He struggled with these challenges on the campaign trail. He struggled with needing to, you know, realign the troops, so to speak, and make these kind of changes. I would imagine he'd struggle with it again. Do you think Ned is right? Does he need to change his team, and can he do that right now?
Well, I think you're right, Trish. I think that there's certainly, you know, a core characteristic of President Trump is his loyalty to those around him that he believes are loyal to him as well. But I think at the end of the day, we cannot forget that President Trump is a chief executive. That's his background. And I think that he bases things not just on loyalty blindly, but also on performance. Certainly, I think there's a lot to be said. I agree with Ned that, you know, some of the folks that have been leading the public face of the White House have been maybe not performing up to standards. But I think that you can't just blame everything on the palace intrigue of what may be happening within, you know, the individuals that are filling the staff positions.
Okay, so
you
Ned,
gotta look globally.
Ned,
as well.
Capri's making the point that, you know, there's a public aspect to this, and Sean Spicer's caught right in the middle of all that. So, yes, there's been a ton of criticism leveled at Sean because the sense is that he gets maybe a little too emotional sometimes when he's dealing with these reporters. He doesn't know how to quite confront them head on. But you're saying it's going deeper than that. It's not just Sean Spicer. You're worried about Priebus and his ability to direct the narrative. Where does Steve Bannon fit in?
You know what? I think he has to keep Bannon, and I say this with some bias. I'll be clear about that. I think I'm biased for the fact, though, that I think Bannon really is kind of the voice of a lot of Trump supporters who voted for Trump and got him over the finish line first. He is their representative in the White House. I think it would be very problematic if Bannon were not to be around the White House moving forward. But, Trish, I would also say this about loyalty. I think Trump, if he's struggling with, do I let some people go, do I move on? Your ultimate loyalty is to the American people who voted for you because they love your agenda. Be loyal to your agenda and don't get it set back by having certain staff around.
You know, that's an important way to think about it. Go ahead.
It sounds like they need Ned as an advisor, because I think he's giving great nuggets of wisdom right now that hopefully the Trump administration you know, will heed, because ultimately this is about the American public. This is about progress. This shouldn't be about politics. And he does need to fill some of the lower level spots as well. You know, the mid-level policy folks, that will also help, I think, shape his agenda and make things more effective.
You know, you say it doesn't need to be about politics, but at the same time, you need as many Republicans as you can get on your side, right? And that's been part of the problem here. Ned, the party hasn't been as united as it needs to be in order to get a lot of the agenda items done. So you have all this splintering. Do you blame Trump for that, or do you blame Priebus for that, or Sean Spicer? I mean, it sounds like, you know, some of this, to a certain extent, has been his own doing.
I think there's actually a little bit of blame that could be spread around. Here's the thing that I noticed yesterday, Trish, when he was addressing those 50 Muslim leaders on Saudi Arabian soil, he was very disciplined. You know what it reminded me of? His joint address to Congress. He has demonstrated now multiple times, if he will be disciplined, he can be very successful. And so I think coming back from this overseas trip, if he can say, okay, I was great with the joint address, I was great in Saudi Arabia, I think he's great in Israel, he's going to have a wonderful trip. If I can be disciplined, I think that's going to instill some more confidence with Republicans on the Hill, who, quite frankly, are not exactly profiles in political courage.
And Capri, where does it leave the Dems?
You know, I think the Dems continue, I think ultimately, potentially to their political peril, assuming that if they just continue to juxtapose themselves as the anti-Trump, that somehow that's going to bring them success in 2018. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, Trish, that is not the way to govern, nor is it an effective way to, frankly, be successful politically. We need to develop an agenda. We need to come to the table. We don't like the budget, and there's a lot of things, for example, I've been critical about. Then we need to come to the table and actually present solutions instead of being the party of no.
All right.
Exactly.
Good to see both you guys.